Hello and welcome back to Not Low from YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks. Just a wee quick message from me before we go into today's exclusive interview with former Australia and Hibernian midfielder Mark Milligan. We've got lots of content that went out over the weekend featuring the Scotland national team and an exclusive interview with Scotland and Manchester City prospect Lewis Fiorini, who spoke to us about his time in the Manchester City Academy, his hopes for the Scotland national team and his time over in Holland just now with NAC Breda. That's out in the channel just now, so please do go and check that out. Also, subscribe to us if you've not already. It would really mean a lot to us as we try and grow this channel. Only been out online for a week and already we've had lots of content out, and we'll have more this coming week. Another exclusive interview to come later in the week, which will be revealed shortly, and plenty of reviews and previews ahead of the Scottish Premiership's return this weekend. That's all from me just now. Enjoy the interview with Mark Milligan. Please remember to subscribe. Take it easy. So what is this sort of new club then? Because you've just come off the back of your spell at Southend. So what is Macarthur FC?
No, I think it's good. It's good for me. Obviously, we were kind of a little bit forced into coming home with COVID and everything. Everything that came along with that. So once we sort of came to terms with coming home and whatnot, I sort of had to sit down and decide firstly if I was going to keep playing. And what I was going to do, and I was lucky that Ante, the coach at Macarthur, I'm very close with. I've known him for a long time, and we've worked together. So when he came to me with the opportunity of, continuing to play and to be able to build a club from the ground up, essentially, that was definitely the sort of thing the sort of spark, I guess, that I needed. Obviously, the last year at Southend was quite difficult. So to be given this chance at Macarthur, as I say, to help Ante and, Sam and the rest of the board be able to build something new and something fresh in Australian football was very exciting.
I've seen you have signed a couple of players. But I know the one I seen was Adam Federici, and there's another couple of decent names signing.
Yeah, so obviously it's very hard when you start up a club. There's limited teams in Australia at the moment, so to be able to find quality personnel very quickly can be difficult. But I think that's exactly what Ante has done, and that's the kind of I think player drawing power that Ante has. Obviously, being with the national team for quite a number of years, a lot of us have worked with him, so. Straight away we know what to expect. He doesn't have to explain too many things to us about the way he wants to play and the way he wants to do things. So I think when when players like myself and Adam Federici and even Tommy Orr, sort of get the chance to talk to Ante, that's generally enough.
It's quite a quick turnaround for the ALeague. I'm pretty sure 2019-20's just finished, and the 2020-2021 starts fairly soon.
Yeah, well, they're playing actually tomorrow night. They play a semi-final, and then they have the final on the weekend. And then I think they're talking at the moment about December time starting. Obviously, with us being a new club, we're hoping to sort of get together, during September and start them.
No, that's not too bad then. I thought it was maybe because I thought it was a wee bit close to the gap then, but is December usually when the A-League would start then? So is COVID had too much of an impact on the schedule?
Normally starts about October. So I think that obviously there's still quite a few foreigners in the league as well, and they're quite conscious of being able to give them some time off before the start of the next season, and whether or not they'll be able to travel home, I'm not too sure, but I think they want to give obviously teams every chance to regroup and that little bit extra time, and I guess the possibility of hopefully fans returning for the next season.
Because I know obviously you were at Southend last year, and I think when you signed it was with an option where coaching role ended as well. But
yeah, it was the whole reason I sort of went to Southend. But obviously, as I say, with COVID, the situation changed, and the chairman's position changed, and that's football and that's life. There's a lot of people in a tougher situation than I am at the minute.
No, obviously your time's up here in Scotland, and I'm sure it's nicer weather where you are instead of this rain and thunderstorms we've got the now. But was with Hibs, and it was you were quite a big name signing at the time because obviously Australia captain, done a fair amount in your time. But a very new challenge for you, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was a little bit, unsettled as well. Obviously, with Neil Lennon leaving and everything that come on. Obviously, we had a mid-season tournament that year with the national team as well. But I thoroughly enjoyed my time at Hibs, and I think personally, from a footballing point of view, the second half of the season was a lot better for me. It's often hard travelling and whatnot with the national team. So once that second half of the season, I didn't have as much travel and was able to settle into things a little bit. I thought personally it was much better, and I was very disappointed that I had to leave. I had 30 games and I played 29, so it sort of got taken out of my hands a little bit. And but I understood what Heckingbottom was looking to do at the club. Obviously, it didn't quite pan out for him, but it looks like they're back on track now, and they've started this year very well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wrote a bit about it at the time, but I think the big reason for that, without wanting to blow smoke up your backside too much, was that they've not really, when you and I think it was Marvin Bartley left, they didn't really, I think he said at the time he wanted to play with a different style or something like that, but they never really replaced either of you, so they just ended up with a load of attacking midfielders in midfield, and they just get... Yeah.
Well, I understand. He was sort of looking long term and wanted to go younger, which obviously, from my point of view, happens when you become towards the end of your career. That's part of it. But obviously, to see him depart so early in the campaign last season was obviously a little bit hard to watch because obviously we were very happy in Scotland and in Edinburgh. So, but again, like I said, that's football. That's what happens. And hopefully now I'm in the right place. I'm able to bring the kids back home. They're spending a lot of time with their family that they've not really seen too much. So there's benefits to everything.
When you, it's the usual question for people who arrive in Scottish football, having not been in it before. I'm assuming you probably didn't too much. You didn't know too much about it.
Yeah, well, I was lucky. I knew a bit, obviously, because there's been a few Aussies go through there. Even the ones that weren't probably as high profile as some of them, like your McDonald's and Lucas and Moores. Aaron Moy went through there early on, and then just before I went, Jackson Irvine was there as well, and just before I went, Jamie McLaren had a good 6 to 8 months at Hibernian before I arrived. So I was probably fortunate in that sense that I did have a decent enough understanding of what I was coming into without actually experiencing it myself.
How did you sort of find living in it? I'm assuming it was a culture shock for you going from Australia and the wonders of Asia to Edinburgh and Princes Street.
Yeah, well, Edinburgh was wonderful. We were very lucky. We lived right in the middle of Edinburgh. My family settled very quickly, and that obviously makes it a lot easier. I don't think I'll get used to driving to training and seeing painters with no shirts on when it's still 4 degrees outside.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't think you can ever get used to driving to Tranmere just in the middle of fields in the middle of nowhere, honestly.
And when the wind starts blowing across the farm, mate, it's...
No, Edinburgh is quite touristy. I think I don't know if you were ever in Glasgow, but compared to Glasgow, it's definitely more accommodated to people coming into this country or perhaps not knowing.
We didn't get a great deal of time in Glasgow, but Edinburgh, I think, especially towards the end, you find all the sort of little places, the nice restaurants and things like that. And I think the good thing is it's sort of a big little city in a sense where you can still walk around and get a good feel for the place. So we really enjoyed our time there.
Were you surprised by just how big a club Hibs were in Scotland? We know that they're probably arguably the third biggest team outside Celtic and Rangers, but coming into the country, were you surprised when first game there's probably 15,000 there and they're all mental?
Yeah, absolutely. Easter Road's unbelievable to play at. We'd been there a few years earlier with the national team, and it's obviously not the same. It's a totally different feel when you're playing there as your home ground, but the support was unreal, and I was fortunate. I lived not too far from the stadium, so you sort of feel that support even during the week, which was nice. Even when you're leaving and you're driving out of the stadium, and the fans always sort of hang around, and there's a few little pubs and places like that. So as you say before, the training ground might be out in the middle of nowhere, but their facilities are wonderful. I don't think people truly understand unless you've been fortunate enough to play there. I guess the size of the club.
Yeah, I think that is perhaps something that takes some players. You were quite experienced by the time you got there and you'd seen and done a lot, but I think for some players who perhaps come from England, especially, not to pick fun at the ones Heckingbottom brought in, but there was a few that perhaps got overwhelmed by that in that squad initially when he came in.
Yeah, well, yeah, as you say, I was fortunate from that point of view. It's I was just able to enjoy the support and enjoy the big crowds coming in and enjoy the added pressures that they came. And I think from a personal point of view as well, I think that's what sort of got me through the second half of the season. Obviously, it's always hard when you change countries and it takes a little bit of time to adapt and adjust. But with knowing that you do have such a big following, it kind of makes you get there a little bit quicker, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how did you sort of find Paul Heckingbottom? I know in the end he started brilliantly. It was a brilliant start, but then it just seemed to peter out as the summer went on.
Yeah, I thought he was. He's obviously a very talented coach, and having Robbie as well. And I quite liked the way that he had us playing, and I quite enjoyed it. And obviously, we did very well under him. The back end of that season when he first came in. That was kind of the most disappointing thing for me. I think I started under him. I started every match that he was there, and yeah, it is hard because, like I said, I've seen coaches try to do what he wanted to do, and I know he was sort of trying to build a longer term goal and bring in those younger players and I guess be able to mould the way that they play and the culture of the club. But you always have to be careful, especially with a club like Hibs. The culture in the change room is very strong as well. And I think players, if you come in and you start trying to change too much too soon, especially at a club like that, that is set and has a good culture. You can find it a little bit difficult sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think because Hibs, I know they've been in the Championship for a few years, but it'd been a decent few years. They'd won the Cup for the first time in over 100 years. They'd got promoted, and they still had that backbone of those sort of squads. So when you had him coming in, I think some of them played, but not entirely lots of minutes. And all these guys were coming in, it seemed to be slightly fractious.
Yeah. As I say, there's a lot of strong personalities in that football club as well, both on the field and off the field, and in a good way. And I think when you come in and you're trying to make, such big changes and large changes in terms of numbers and players and things like that, as I say, when you have a lot of strong personalities, it can be very difficult to get that right.
Yeah, I'm assuming the way you're speaking, if you'd been allowed to stay at Hibs, you'd have perhaps took the option to stay another year.
Oh, I would have stayed 100%. I didn't. My wife still gets angry at me that we left. That we had to leave.
Because you see that way. I know Ophir Marciano's one been speaking about that. It seems to be when you do come there, I know the city's great, but the club also take you in as well and perhaps take a bit more care of you that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I've been fortunate enough to still be able to speak to people from the club, and it is, as I say, it's a wonderful club. It has a wonderful culture within it, and there's wonderful people both in the playing staff and outside of that, the personnel behind the scenes. So, and that's why I sort of keep an eye on it now, and it's great to see them start the season so well. And then obviously we've still got an Aussie there in Boylie as well.
Well, I was about to say, he's a fake Australian. I mean, he's more our bro than I've met, but I mean, it does. It'll be. I wonder now, see, because his form's kicking on, whether it's sort of a wee bit missed opportunity for Scotland, because in a couple of years, Scotland are going to be crying out for a right winger, and he fits the bill very well. And I'm assuming you're quite happy to have him in the Australia setup.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's excellent. I think he's excellent for us now. I know there hasn't been an international game for quite some time, but I think Boyley's a massive pickup for Australian football, and he'll get the chance to do some great things, I think. And I think he's something very different to what we've had come through in the last couple of years. His strengths and attributes are, as I say, have not really been seen. We have a lot of good players, but I think he's very direct, and he scores goals, and I think he'll enjoy the way that the national team sets up, and I think it suits him very well.
I think as well, not just on the park, obviously on the park he's very good, but off the park as well, he's a really big character around Hibs. I know they speak really highly of him in that sense as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and that helps because he is, you know, when you have those players like that in the change rooms to keep spirits high, especially when times aren't great, it's very important. So it's all well and good having having a Boily when you're winning, but it's probably when you're not doing so well that he means more to the team.
Just one final question. You're duty bound to ask former Hibs and Hearts players, how did you enjoy the derbies?
The derby, it was unbelievable. Obviously, it's one of the best experiences, of my footballing life, and it's spoken about everywhere. And I spoke about obviously probably the most in England because I don't think they understand, and they obviously have a very set view of what happens up north. But the games at both at home and at Tynecastle were excellent, and probably the one that stands out the most is the one at Tynecastle. I remember Jamie McLaren, I think, going off at one of the other Aussie boys from Perth. I think it was Garuccio.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that probably sums it up. We're all obviously very good mates, and all our wives and everything like that. But then you go into that derby, and it literally seems like everything's thrown out the window, and all that matters is the 3 points.
So just on the season ahead, how are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I'm very excited. As I said, being able to start from scratch and set the culture in the club and the way that we want to play, is a new challenge. So from that, I'm not really sure what to expect, but I think it'll be good. As you said, there's been a few good signings, some good young boys come in as well that have some international experience with the younger Australian national teams. And look, the Australian League, it's not extremely long, so it's it'll be interesting. I think we'll probably carry a little bit smaller squad than the rest of the league, and that's going to be a test to the medical staff and things like that. But I'm very much, as I said, very much looking forward to it, and I'm very optimistic that we'll start and be successful sooner rather than later.